Sorry, I wasn't watching the time. We're finishing up the chapter. The old lady was telling everybody that everybody deserves a second chance. They all crowded closer with that news, even Duke, who squinted toward the old lady and said, "Who's that? It sounds like that crazy old bat who tried to drown me." "Watch it," I warned. "She's here to help you," said the spider to the fly. We went back and forth in our usual way until the old lady called out softly, "Stump, maybe you better come up here. He might listen to you." Who? Duke couldn't believe his new ears. "Me," Stump said, stepping out of the shadows. One look at Stump sent all the other rhinos backpedaling, and reverse is in an easy direction for anyone with 4 legs. A considerable pileup was followed by snorting and a heartfelt name-calling, all whispered, of course. Duke alone stood his ground, unable to believe his luck. "Is it really you?" Duke asked. "I knew you guys would come for me. I just knew it. But where's Jim Dandy? Where's Biz? What's the plan?" "Stone," Stump said. "Both of 'em. That's why we're here. We need the stone feather Bodacious Deepthink took from your house." "No you don't, no you don't, no you don't," Reliable St. John sang from Stump's shoulder. "But I don't know anything about that," Duke squawked. "Oh, come off it," Uncle Floyd said. "Every rhino here heard you tell Bo where to find it. Why, she wouldn't even have known about that feather if you hadn't told her." "I was desperate," Duke whined. "Not to mention pathetic," Uncle Floyd added. Doesn't seem like Duke has learned his lesson at all. Other rhinos shared unflattering opinions of Duke until the old lady interrupted. "Do you know where the feather is now?" she asked. "I saw her put it in her vest pocket," Duke sniffled. "That's it, then," the old lady started. "Once I get the feather, we'll be getting out of here." "And just how are we going to do that?" the rhino with the eye patch wanted to know. "With a trick or two. They better be good ones," Uncle Floyd said. "The last rhino who got caught making a break for it got tucked into popovers, which is food." "I don't trust her," Duke whimpered. "Would you rather trust Bodacious Deepthink?" I asked. "Let him," called a rhino from the back. "Not me," said another. "His neck—" "Quiet," the old lady whispered. "My helpers and I have work to do, and we need to do it while Bo's asleep. When we get back, I want you all ready to charge across the bridge." "Bo's there!" were several gasps. "She won't be there when the time comes," vowed the old lady. Chapter 49. Getting the Stone Feather. Looks like she's floating. We left the rhinos without answering any more questions, though there were plenty of them flying around. Once out of earshot of the herd, the old lady held up a hand for everyone to halt. "Which tunnel takes us up to the top?" she asked, speaking to Reliable St. John. "That one," the cricket answered from Stump's shoulder. He dipped an antenna toward a tiny tunnel at the far across the cavern. "Try that one." "Way over there?" The old lady lifted an amused brow. "Are you sure?" "That's the one." "I was hoping it would be," the old lady said. Turning her back on the tiny tunnel, she pointed at the large one directly opposite it. "How about that one? Would that get us home, too?" "Better skip that one." Reliable St. John sounded hopeful that she wouldn't. "It's a dead end." Remember, they've been cursed to just tell lies, so you want to do the opposite of what they say. We now faced a big tunnel around as a school bus, but without a hint of yellow anywhere. The only color to that tunnel was black. Its mouth was barred with stalagmites and stalactites that looked like sharp teeth in bad need of a dentist. Worse, need of floss. But the 2 front teeth had been punched out, leaving a hole big enough to scrape through, though Bodacious Deepthink probably had to turn sideways and hold her breath to make it. A bigger giveaway was the path leading up to the tunnel. Shiny and worn, it led all the way from the stone bridge where Bodacious Deepthink slept. "That's the one," the old lady said, satisfied that she sifted the truth out of the cricket's lies. "Now I want you 3 to collect a lantern and go stand by that tunnel. Leave the lantern covered until I get the rhinos headed your way, then whip off the cover and give the glass a good rap to get the star glowing. These bullies will need something bright to aim for." "But," Stump faltered, "where are you going to be?" "Why, getting the feather," she joshed, trying to make it sound like a walk in the park. "And if I can't get back to you, you just go on without me. You'll have the cricket to guide you, and I'll meet you up top." The old lady sounded way too cheery to be reassuring. To make matters darker, nobody could think of anything else to say, so with nods and gulps all around, we parted. When the old lady could no longer hear us, Reliable St. John whispered to Stump, "Wrong way, wrong way." At least that much was encouraging. To reach the tunnel, we had to bound across the stream, sidestep crevices filled with snoring rock trolls, and steer clear of other trolls who'd fallen asleep out in the open next to their pickaxes. At one point, we passed Jim Dandy's father, Double Knot, curled up against a wheelbarrow. Stump held up a quarter step, maybe thinking of waking him, but Reliable St. John kept him moving by commenting, "He'd come quietly, I'm sure," which means he wouldn't. Not far past Double Knot, we reached the path leading our tunnel. "Not that way," Reliable St. John said. But the old lady was balancing herself on the bridge stone rail right in front of Bodacious Deepthink's chest, which was rising and lowering in time with her snores. Pulling on the stone glove, the old lady reached for the stone feather in Bo's vest pocket. No go. The rock troll's folded hands blocked the way. To fix that, she sprinkled fairy dust over Bo's hands, both of which began to rise as if leading a sleepwalker. That gave the old lady the opening she needed. Easing the feather out and held it up for us to see, Stump waved frantically for her to join us, but she wasn't done on the bridge. With her free hand, she grabbed a handful after handful of fairy dust and tossed it over the sleeping Bo. The great rock troll squirmed as though tickled by the fairy dust spattered across her rocky shoulders and hips. The dust melted and glowed as it sank through her tough old hide. "Let's watch, let's watch." Hearing Reliable St. John say that got us moving. Stump lifted the covered lantern off a nearby wagon and handed it to me. Through a small metal loop on its top, I felt the star waking, though its first glow barely passed through the burlap cover. By the time I peeked back at the old lady, she had left the bridge and was following us, unwinding the white rope from around her waist as she went. About halfway to us, she stopped between two boulders, one of which looked like a giant bunny standing on its ears, the other like an oversized gumball machine. She knotted one end of the rope around the bunny ears and laid the middle of it across the path, and looped the other end loosely around the gumball machine. "What's she doing there?" Stump asked. "It's for tripping," I said. "Trolls don't fall," Reliable stated. I was relieved to hear that lie, though the old lady's handiwork did leave me with one question. What good would the rope do while flat on the ground? That's where the old lady left it, though. Wheeling around, she headed back towards Bodacious Deepthink. Stump tried psst at her, but with all the snoring trolls around us, it was a wasted breath. This time she avoided the bridge, where Bo was still slightly aglow, and bounded over to the black stream, headed for the corral. Once there, she swung open the wooden gate wide open. No rhinos rushed to join her. The bigger rhinos tried bumping and shoving the smaller ones forward, but the ones being pushed dug in their hooves in and held back. Farthest from the gate stood Duke, defiantly munching on Farmer Bailey's hay. He didn't care if he was going to get eaten. All at once, the pushing and shoving ceased. Back on the bridge, Bodacious Deepthink was beginning to swell and rise like a hot air balloon. Her shoulders and arms were flowing up and her hands upward. Lagging behind were her legs and hips. The old lady dashed back to throw handfuls of dust over the rock troll's lower half. And still the great rock troll slept. As she lifted up, she mumbled and smacked her flinty lips as though sampling something in a lovely dream. The way her body creaked as it expanded and rose, it was a wonder she didn't wake herself. From every inch she lifted, the rhinos crowded an inch closer to the gate. At about 10 feet above the bridge, Bodacious Deepthink leveled off, bigger than ever. The rhinos' herd had edged up to the open gate, though not a horn farther. To show them that everything was safe, the old lady trotted right under the floating rock troll. Still, no one followed, not even Uncle Floyd. Stopping beneath Bodacious, the old lady waved to him like a tourist. By then, the fairy dust had sifted all the way through Bo, making her underslide glow faintly as sparkling gold and green specks began to flake off her. Ever so slightly, Bodacious Deepthink began to slowly settle back down. It was Uncle Floyd who summoned the courage first. Butting his way to the front of the herd, he shuffled across the bridge, passing directly beneath Bodacious Deepthink without a scratch. Weak from hunger, he had to pull up several times to catch his breath. Once he even tripped, crashing to his knees. No matter, Bodacious Deepthink snoozed on. As soon as Uncle Floyd cleared the bridge, Stump whipped the burlap feed sack off the lantern I was holding and knocked the glass with a knuckle. The shooting star inside came to life, shining like a beacon. The old lady shoved Uncle Floyd down the path toward it. He didn't have any fast in him, barely any slow, but it was a start. Seeing that, all the bullies but Duke broke for the bridge at once, shoving and pushing and tripping to get across first. A huge rhino jam followed, right beneath Bodacious Deepthink. Thank goodness she was snoring as loud as ever, and never heard the commotion. Maybe the rhinos would have sorted everything out sooner or later. Bodacious Deepthink wasn't sinking that fast, and one or two of the rhinos, with some help from the old lady, did spurt free of the gallop after Uncle Floyd, but then Duke looked up from his bale of hay, saw that he was being left behind, and bellowed with all his might, "Hey! What about me?" He wasn't satisfied with yelling either. Lowering his horn, he barreled out of the corral to plow into the back of the herd with all of his might. The collision caused the middle of the herd to buckle upward, pushing the rhino wearing a baseball cap onto the backs of others. By then, Bodacious Deepthink had sunk to a height of 7 or 8 feet above the bridge. The horn of the lifted rhino stabbed her bottom. That poke did what all the bickering and shouting had failed to do. The great rock troll woke. What are we going to do with Duke?